are here.
Nevada isn't just deserts and casinos. It's where ghosts still wander through the shadows of history. From ghost towns buried beneath the sand to grand hotels haunted by their past. Every corner of this state whispers the stories of those long gone. Get ready in this list of top 15 haunted places in Nevada. You'll step into a world where the line between the living and the dead is thinner than ever before. 1. Rhyolite Ghost Town, Beatty. In the barren desert of Nevada, just outside Beatty, lies Rhyolite, a ghost town frozen in time. By day, it's eerily beautiful, crumbling stone buildings glowing beneath the harsh sun, whispers of wind weaving through broken windows. But when night falls, something awakens. Locals say the air grows thick, heavy, and electric, as if the desert itself remembers every scream, every regret buried in its dust. It began in 1904 when Rhyolite was a booming gold rush town. Miners flooded in, chasing fortune, carving life from the wilderness. But as quickly as gold appeared, it vanished, leaving behind greed, despair, and death. Some say the miners never truly left. Travelers who dare to explore after sunset report distant footsteps echoing on the gravel, faint voices calling their names, and shadows that move against the light. One woman claimed she saw a miner's ghost, his hollow eyes glowing under the ruins of the Cook Bank building, his hand clutching a pickaxe, dripping with sand instead of blood. Historians dismiss it as imagination tricks of the desert wind. But paranormal investigators have captured unexplainable readings, sudden temperature drops, and EVP recordings whispering still here. Even the once bustling train depot hums at night, as if waiting for passengers who never arrived. So, the question remains, what lingers in Rhyolite when the last tourist leaves? Are they echoes of the past, or restless souls guarding their lost gold? If you ever find yourself near Beatty, stand in the ruins at midnight and listen. You might hear the faint clang of a pickaxe, or a voice asking, "Did you find it yet?" But be warned. In Rhyolite, those who search too long often become part of the story themselves. Or Hoover Dam, Boulder City. Standing tall between the jagged cliffs of the Colorado River, the Hoover Dam is a marvel of human engineering and a monument built on sacrifice. Towering above the Black Canyon, it hums with power, feeding electricity to millions. But behind its colossal concrete face lies a darkness that never left. Locals say the dam doesn't just hold back water. It holds back something else. During its construction in the 1930s, over 100 workers lost their lives. Some fell from dizzying heights. Others vanished into the concrete pores, their bodies sealed forever inside the walls. Whispers claim their souls remain trapped, restless, echoing through the tunnels deep within the dam. Maintenance workers often report hearing footsteps following them, rhythmic, heavy, as if someone still patrolled the catwalks. Others hear voices calling their names, only to find themselves utterly alone. The air thick and damp with unseen presence. Visitors have seen strange mist rise from the dam's base even on clear nights, forming human-like shapes that drift across the spillway. before vanishing into the canyon. Security cameras have caught flickers of movement, a shadow pacing where no one should be. Some even say that if you stand near the observation deck after midnight, you can hear the faint sound of hammering, as though the construction never ended. Engineers call it superstition. Scientists say it's the wind echoing through the dam's hollow passages. But those who've spent long nights guarding Hoover Dam swear the energy changes, the hum of machinery deepens, and something unseen watches from below. So if you ever visit Boulder City and feel a sudden chill while gazing down at the dam's dark waters, don't ignore it. Because beneath that concrete giant, under the weight of history and human ambition, the dead are still working. The Mizpah Hotel, Tonopah. In the heart of the Nevada desert, where the wind carries whispers through abandoned mines, stands the Mizpah Hotel. Once a symbol of luxury, now one of America's most haunted places. Built in 1907, it was the crown jewel of Tonopah, where miners, gamblers, and dreamers came to chase fortune. But behind its grand chandeliers and velvet curtains, the Mizpah hides a darkness that refuses to fade. They say the haunting begins on the 5th floor, where the lady in red still walks. A woman of beauty and mystery. She was murdered in her room by a jealous lover, her final breath echoing through the hallways. Guests claim they've seen her reflection in the mirrors, her crimson dress flowing like smoke, her perfume lingering long after the air turns cold. Some wake in the night to find a soft whisper in their ear, a hand brushing against their cheek, gentle, almost affectionate, before realizing they're alone. But she's not the only spirit who never checked out. Miners' ghosts have been seen near the basement, their boots clanging on the iron steps, faces covered in soot, murmuring about lost gold. The elevator sometimes moves on its own, stopping at empty floors. Lights flicker, doors slam, and an icy presence presses against your skin as if the walls themselves are breathing. Staff try to laugh it off, telling tales to entertain tourists. Yet every so often, a guest checks out early, pale and shaken, refusing to speak of what they saw. Paranormal teams have recorded ghostly voices whispering, "Help me," and "Stay." One investigator swore he saw a woman's hand reach from the mirror, then vanish into the glass. So, if you ever find yourself in Tonopah and dare to spend the night at the Mizpah, listen closely after midnight. When the hallway grows silent and the lights begin to dim, you might hear her soft voice calling your name. And if you smell roses when no one's near, it means the lady in red has found you. Four, Goldfield Hotel, Goldfield. In the desolate heart of Nevada's desert stands the Goldfield Hotel, a grand relic of greed, tragedy, and unending torment. Once the pride of a booming gold rush town, its marble floors and crystal chandeliers have long since surrendered to dust, but something within those walls still breathes, still waits, and still remembers. Locals say the Goldfield isn't abandoned. It's alive. Built in 1908, the hotel was a monument to excess its owner, George Wingfield, ruled Goldfield with money, power, and fear. But behind closed doors, rumors swirled of dark secrets. The most chilling tale tells of Elizabeth, a young woman who was said to be Wingfield's mistress. When she became pregnant, he locked her in room 109, ashamed of the scandal. Months later, her screams stopped. Some say she died there. Others that her child was taken, but no one ever saw her again. Ever since, guests have reported the cries of a woman echoing through the halls at night, the sound of chains dragging across the floor, and a cold, suffocating air that grips your chest when you pass her room. Paranormal investigators have captured lights flickering in long abandoned corridors, shadows moving against the direction of their flashlights, and doors slamming violently on their own. Cameras drain of battery within minutes. EVP recordings whisper, "George, why?" in a trembling feminine voice. Even seasoned ghost hunters have fled mid-investigation, claiming to feel unseen hands pushing them toward the staircase, the same one where a man once jumped to his death. The people of Goldfield warn that the hotel doesn't just haunt the living, it feeds on them. Visitors who stay too long speak of nightmares so vivid they wake with bruises and scratches that weren't there before. Some say the Goldfield Hotel is cursed, that it hungers for guilt, fear, and unfinished stories. If you ever stand before its decaying facade, you might feel a presence watching from the upper window, a woman's silhouette framed in flickering light. Step inside if you dare. But when you reach room 109, don't knock, because Elizabeth is still waiting, and she's been waiting far too long. Virginia City, Story County. High in the mountains of Nevada, wrapped in fog and the echo of pickaxes long gone silent, lies Virginia City, a town born from silver and buried in sorrow. Once one of the richest places in America, it glittered with fortune seekers chasing dreams in the Comstock lode. But where there's gold and greed, there's death. And Virginia City has more ghosts than living souls to prove it. By day, the streets hum with tourists and history tours. But when the sun sinks behind Mount Davidson, the old wooden sidewalks creak with footsteps that don't belong to the living. Locals say the spirits of miners still wander beneath the town, their lamps glowing faintly through the cracks in the ground, searching for veins of silver that no longer exist. The faint smell of gunpowder sometimes lingers in the air, a reminder of the explosions that buried hundreds alive in the mines below. The Silver Queen Hotel, once the pride of Virginia City, hides one of its most sorrowful tales. A young prostitute named Rosie is said to have taken her life in despair, and her ghost still lingers, tapping on the walls, crying softly through the night. Guests report waking to the sensation of someone sitting at the edge of their bed, or seeing the reflection of a weeping woman in the mirror, wearing a torn red dress. The Old Washoe Club, once a gathering place for the town's elite, is another vortex of haunting energy. Bartenders claim bottles slide off shelves by themselves, and the piano sometimes plays a single chilling note when no one's near. Even the cemetery on the hill can't rest easy. Shadows move between tombstones, and ghostly lights drift like will-o'-the-wisps in the midnight air. Some visitors say they've heard whispers rising from the earth miners, calling each other's names, still trapped in their eternal shift. Skeptics call it superstition, but those who've walked Virginia City's streets after dark know better. The town may have survived fire, greed, and time itself, yet its past refuses to die. So if you ever find yourself there when the moon rises over Story County, listen closely. The ghosts of Virginia City don't just haunt its buildings, they haunt its story. So, Carson City Mint, Carson City. In the quiet heart of Nevada's capital stands the Carson City Mint, a place once filled with the ringing of coins and the promise of wealth. Today it's a museum, polished floors, display cases, and smiling guides. But when the doors close and the lights dim, the mint changes. The air thickens. The silence hums with something unseen, and those who stay behind swear the past begins to stir. Built in 1869, the mint was a proud symbol of the silver boom. Men worked day and night melting, stamping, and pressing coins from the riches of the Comstock lode. But greed has a way of breeding misfortune. Accidents were common: molten metal spills, machinery failures, and the occasional man who vanished into the furnace room, never seen again. Some believe their spirits never left, still bound to the silver they forged. Night guards have told stories they later refused to repeat. The sound of heavy footsteps echoing through the hall. Though the building is empty, the rhythmic clank of coin presses operating by themselves. A shadow that passes between exhibits, pausing near the old minting machine where one worker was crushed to death more than a century ago. They say his spirit still tends the machines, repeating his final shift forever. Visitors have caught cold spots near the vault, as if the room itself exhales frost. Some report the faint metallic scent of heated silver, and hear whispers that sound like numbers being counted quick, urgent, and angry. Paranormal investigators claim their equipment malfunctions inside the mint. Batteries draining and recorders picking up faint voices murmuring, "Keep working." By day, the Carson City Mint gleams with history. But by night, its walls pulse with memory, the restless energy of labor, greed, and tragedy. So if you ever visit after closing time and hear the soft clang of coins echoing from the dark, don't look back, because the ghosts of Carson City still mint their fortune in silence, and they don't take kindly to intruders. Fernstoke Oaks Castle, Austin, rising alone against the Nevada desert. Stokes Castle looms like a forgotten monument to ambition and loss. Built in 1897 by millionaire Anson Phelps Stokes, the stone tower was meant to be his family's summer retreat, but they stayed only once before abandoning it forever. Since then, the castle has stood silent, battered by wind and time, and haunted by what refuses to leave. Locals say strange lights flicker from its windows at night, though the tower has no power. Some hear footsteps pacing the upper floor. Others, the faint sound of a woman crying when the desert wind is still. Travelers who camp nearby often wake to whispers outside their tents, low, urgent, and close. One visitor claimed to see a shadowy figure standing at the tower's edge just before dawn, staring toward Austin, then vanishing into thin air. Historians call it superstition, but few dare to stay after sunset. The stones seem to hum, as if echoing memories of the Stokes family's brief, mysterious stay. Some believe Anson's restless spirit still guards his unfinished dream, trapped between pride and regret. So if you find yourself driving through Austin at dusk, look up at the lonely tower on the hill. You might see a flicker of light in the highest window or hear the whisper of a man who built a castle in the desert and never truly left it. 8. The Clown Motel, Tonopah. On the edge of the lonely Nevada desert stands the Clown Motel. A place so strange it feels like a bad dream that never ends. Its walls are covered with hundreds of clown dolls, smiling, staring, frozen in eternal grins. By day, it's odd and quirky. But when night falls, those smiles begin to feel alive. The motel sits beside an old cemetery, where the miners of Tonopah rest or try to. Guests say the spirits wander between the graves and the motel, drawn to the clowns like moths to a flame. Some wake to the sound of laughter echoing down the halls, soft and distant at first, then suddenly right outside their door. Others swear the dolls move on their own, a tilt of the head here, a shift of the eyes there. One traveler claimed he saw a life-sized clown standing by his bed at 3 a.m, holding an old lantern. When he blinked, it was gone, but the faint smell of smoke and candle wax lingered in the room. Security cameras have caught doors opening by themselves and shadowy figures passing through walls. Even the owners admit that lights flicker and TVs turn on to static without explanation. Locals believe the motel feeds off the energy of the cemetery, the clowns acting as vessels for lost souls. Whether it's true or not, few who spend the night ever sleep well. The laughter doesn't stop. The eyes don't stop watching. So if you ever pass through Tonopah and decide to stay at the Clown Motel, keep your light on and don't stare too long at the dolls, because sometimes when you blink, they blink back. Nine, Sand Mountain, Fallon. Just east of Fallon, Nevada, a massive dune rises from the desert Sand Mountain, shimmering like gold under the sun. But when night falls and the wind begins to howl, the mountain sings a low, mournful hum that chills the soul. Locals call it the Song of the Dead. Legend says the sound comes from the spirit of a fallen Paiute warrior, buried beneath the sands after a great battle. His tribe believed the mountain was alive, and that his soul still moves within it, warning travelers to stay away. Campers report hearing the eerie melody grow louder with each gust of wind, until it sounds almost human, like someone crying from beneath the dunes. At dusk, strange lights have been seen drifting over the sand, glowing blue and vanishing when approached. Footprints appear overnight, leading nowhere. Some riders on ATVs say they've seen a figure at the top of the mountain, tall, motionless, and watching. When they climb to look, the summit is empty, but the wind begins to whisper their names. Scientists say the singing comes from vibrations in the sand, nothing more than nature's trick. But locals don't believe it. Too many have felt the pull of the mountain, heard the whispers that seem to answer when spoken to. Some even claim that if you camp too close, you'll dream of drowning in sand and wake with grit in your mouth and fear in your bones. So if you visit Fallon and stand beneath the moonlit dunes, listen carefully. The wind may carry a song that isn't meant for you, a voice from deep below, still calling across the centuries. And if you hear your name in the desert song, don't answer back. Psyched Routine, Battle Mountain Cookhouse Museum, Battle Mountain. In the quiet town of Battle Mountain stands a relic of Nevada's frontier, past the Cookhouse Museum. Once a bustling kitchen for railroad workers and ranch hands, it now serves as a window into history, and some say, a doorway for the restless dead who never left their posts. By day, the old building feels warm and nostalgic. Antique stoves, rusted utensils, the smell of aged wood and dust. But after dark, when the town sleeps, the cookhouse awakens. Locals whisper of flickering lights inside the empty rooms, of pots clanging and voices murmuring like a long-lost dinner rush. Visitors claim they've smelled fresh bread baking, though the ovens have been cold for decades. One caretaker told of hearing heavy boots pacing the floorboards late one night, followed by the sharp scrape of a chair moving across the kitchen. When he entered, everything was still, except for one plate, neatly set on the table. Paranormal teams have recorded faint whispers saying, "Serve the men," and "It's not done yet." Others have seen the shadow of a woman near the stove, believed to be the cook who died there of exhaustion during the harsh winter of 1912. Sometimes, the temperature drops without warning, and visitors feel a sudden weight on their shoulders as if unseen hands are guiding them back to work. Even the old clock above the dining room stops at 3:17 Manyanchid. Every night, the exact time the cook is said to have taken her last breath. Skeptics call it imagination, but those who've spent a night inside the museum know the truth. The cookhouse still serves its eternal shift. So if you ever visit Battle Mountain after sundown and hear the faint clatter of dishes in the dark, don't look back. Dinner is still being served. Overton Ghost Town, Overton. Deep in the Moapa Valley, where the desert meets the waters of Lake Mead, lies Overton Ghost Town, a forgotten place swallowed by time and silence. What was once a thriving community now stands in eerie stillness, sun-bleached walls, crumbling stone foundations, and the haunting echo of lives long gone. But some say Overton isn't empty, it's waiting. When the lake's waters recede, the remains of the old town emerge from the mud streets, door frames, and shadows that shouldn't move but do. Locals swear that at twilight, when the desert wind dies, you can hear faint voices drifting across the dry lakebed laughter, footsteps, even the creak of wagon wheels that vanished a century ago. Those who wander too far among the ruins say they feel watched, their names whispered from nowhere. One fisherman told of seeing a lantern swaying in the distance one foggy night. Thinking someone was lost, he followed it until the light vanished, leaving only footprints leading into the dark water. Divers exploring the submerged parts of the town have reported cold spots and the sound of bells underwater, as if a church still rings beneath the surface. Some believe the spirits of the settlers remain tied to the land they refuse to abandon, rising each time the water falls. Others think that the ghostly activity is tied to the town's final days, when floods forced families to leave everything behind: homes, dreams, and graves. So if you ever travel through Overton and see the ruins gleaming under a full moon, listen closely. The desert may seem silent, but the town beneath the sand still whispers. And if the wind suddenly carries a voice calling you by name, don't answer. Overton remembers everyone who visits, and not all who enter are meant to leave. Wutuir Tonopah Cemetery, Tonopah. At the edge of Tonopah, where the desert wind sighs through crooked wooden crosses, lies the Kidur Tonopah Cemetery. A resting place for the miners, drifters, and dreamers who built the town and never truly left it. By day, it looks peaceful, rows of weathered graves under a wide Nevada sky. But when night falls, the cemetery awakens. The air grows colder, the silence deepens, and the dead begin to whisper. Buried here are the victims of the Tonopah Belmont mine fire of 1911 men who died deep underground, their lungs filled with smoke and dust. Locals say their spirits still rise from the earth, wandering the graves at dusk, their lamps flickering faintly in the dark. Visitors have seen orbs floating between tombstones and heard the faint echo of coughing, as if the miners still struggle for breath. Even stranger things happen near the edge of the grounds, closest to the Clown Motel, which sits right beside the cemetery. Guests report seeing shadowy figures moving between the two, as if the dead slip across to visit the living. Some wake to find handprints on their windows, dusty and small, like those of children buried long ago. Paranormal teams have captured EVPs whispering, "We're still here," and "It's not over." The wind often carries the faint sound of a church bell, though no bell has rung in Tonopah for decades. And on rare nights, when the moon is low and the desert is still, witnesses claim they've seen a procession of ghostly miners walking in silence toward town tools in hand, eyes glowing dimly, as if heading to work one last time. So if you ever visit Tonopah and feel a chill creeping up your spine near the old cemetery, don't linger too long. The dead there are not cruel, only lonely. But in Tonopah, even the lonely can reach out from the grave, and some touches, once felt, never fade. The Washoe Club, Virginia City. In the heart of Virginia City, surrounded by the whispers of the old mining days, stands the Washoe Club, a grand saloon once filled with laughter, whiskey, and sin. But behind its ornate doors, beneath the faded chandeliers, lies a darkness that never left. The building may be quiet now, but the ghosts inside still drink, dance, and mourn beneath the cracked ceilings of history. Built in 1875 for the elite of the Comstock Lode, the Washoe Club was where the wealthy came to forget their sins and where many met their end. A tragic explosion in the mines below sent shockwaves through the town, and the club became a refuge for grief, secrets, and death. Over time, it transformed from a place of pleasure into one of restless spirits. Guests and investigators alike tell chilling stories. Footsteps echo down the spiral staircase when no one is there. The scent of cigar smoke drifts through empty halls. Mirrors fog from unseen breath. Some have seen a man in an old miner's coat sitting at the bar, silent, unmoving only for him to vanish when approached. And then there's the Blue Lady, a spirit said to appear near the third-floor parlor, glowing faintly as if made of moonlight. She's believed to be a former worker who met a violent end and still wanders, searching for the man who promised to take her away. Security cameras capture flickering lights and full-bodied apparitions drifting through locked rooms. The old piano sometimes plays a single haunting note at midnight, as though summoning the ghosts of the past to one last dance. Locals warn that the Washoe Club doesn't just house spirits, it invites them. Many who enter leave changed, haunted by whispers that follow them home. So if you ever step inside after dark and you feel the chill of unseen eyes watching from the balcony, remember this in the Washoe Club. The party never truly ended. It just crossed over to the other side. Lead 14, Nelson Ghost Town, Boulder City. Tucked deep within the El Dorado Canyon, surrounded by scorched cliffs and desert silence, lies Nelson Ghost Town, a place where greed, violence, and death carved their names into the rock. Once a booming gold mining camp known for its lawlessness, Nelson wasn't just wild, it was deadly. And some say the men who spilled blood there never left. Back in the 1800s, Nelson's Tecaticup mine drew hundreds seeking fortune, but it quickly became infamous for its feuds and murders. Rival miners killed each other over gold veins. Outlaws hid from the law in the twisting tunnels below. Locals whispered the mine was cursed, that anyone who entered with greed in their heart would never return the same. Even now, those who explore the old shafts claim to hear distant pickaxes striking stone and muffled screams rising from the dark. When night falls, Nelson transforms. The desert air grows heavy, the canyon hums with unseen energy, and ghostly figures have been spotted among the rusting cars and decayed shacks. One visitor swore he saw a man in tattered clothes standing by an old truck, his face half-burned, staring before fading into smoke. Another claimed to hear a woman singing softly near the mine entrance, her voice echoing until it became a scream. Locals say the spirits are restless, drawn to the violence that once ruled the town. Some believe they protect the gold still buried beneath the earth. Others think they're trapped, doomed to relive their brutal final moments. Paranormal investigators have recorded whispers saying, "Get out, and it's ours." So if you ever find yourself near Boulder City and take the winding road into El Dorado Canyon, tread carefully when the sun sets. The ghosts of Nelson don't take kindly to trespassers. And if you hear the sound of a pickaxe behind you in the dark, don't turn around. The miners of Nelson are still digging for eternity. (15) Reno Little Theater, Reno. In the heart of downtown, Reno stands one of the city's oldest cultural landmarks, the Reno Little Theater. By day, it's a cozy stage where laughter and applause fill the air. But when the curtain falls and the audience is gone, the theater becomes something else entirely. Shadows linger longer than they should. Lights flicker without reason, and the faint echo of applause drifts from an empty room. Built in 1935, the theater has seen decades of performances, heartbreaks, and dreams, and perhaps that energy never left. Cast members often speak of a presence watching from the balcony, a man in a dark suit who appears only during rehearsals. When they look again, the seat is empty, but the smell of old cologne lingers. Technicians working late have heard footsteps crossing the stage, the rustle of fabric, even quiet laughter coming from behind the curtains. One legend tells of a former actor who died just days before his big debut. They say he still roams backstage, waiting for his cue. Actors have reported feeling a cold hand on their shoulder right before stepping into the spotlight, as if he's giving them a final push of encouragement or warning. Or the piano in the corner sometimes plays a few soft notes when no one is near, and lights turn on moments after being shut off. Even the dressing rooms hold a strange, chill mirrors fog up as if someone is breathing just over your shoulder. Staff have grown used to it, calling their resident spirit the gentleman of the balcony. But visitors who stay late often leave, pale and trembling, swearing they saw movement in the wings or heard whispers repeating lines from plays long forgotten. So if you ever attend a show at the Reno Little Theater and feel a presence beside you when the lights dim, don't be alarmed. It's just one more devoted performer, waiting for the final act that never ends. They say what happens in Nevada stays in Nevada, but some things refuse to rest. From ghost towns swallowed by sand to hotels echoing with whispers of the past. These haunted places prove the Silver State hides far more than gold and glitter. But this is just the beginning. Beyond the desert lies even darker secrets: haunted highways, cursed mines, and towns where time itself seems trapped between worlds. If you think you're brave enough, hit subscribe and stay close, because next, we're taking you deeper into Nevada's haunted heart, where every shadow has a story, and some stories are still being written.